Good morning, everyone. Happy Monday. Hope you had an awesome weekend and an amazing start to your week this morning. Today, I wanted to talk about mediation. What is this mediation thing we keep talking about? So you've made the decision that it's time to move up forward and away from your relationship. You've made the decision that you need to divorce. And now you have to figure out what that means. What are the next steps you need to take? So if there are children, you have to decide what the parenting plan is going to look like. So when are the kids with mom? When are the kids with dad? What happens on summer holidays, March break, Christmas holidays, the regular school year? What happens if one of you wants to travel with the kids? What are the rules around that? You know, if there's a special religious holiday or something that you observe, how is that going to work moving forward when you have two houses for the kids? And then it comes to the finances. What's going to happen with the house? Is one of you going to buy out one of the other homeowner, or are you guys going to sell the house? How do you make that decision? If one of you is going to buy the other person out of the house, how do you determine what the value is going to be? Then you have to talk about if there are any other assets, bank accounts, RRSPs, if there's a pension, what happens with that stuff? Then there might be debt. There could be a mortgage, there could be credit card debt, there could be some kind of line of credit. You guys have to figure out what's going to happen with all of those items. So here you are, you've made the decision to divorce. There's a lot of emotion surrounding that decision. There could be anger, sadness, grief, anxiety, hatred. There could be all kinds of negative emotions, and you have to deal with all of that. And then add to it, you have to deal with all of the decision making that comes along with this divorce. It's really hard. It is really hard. You need to get yourself some support to get through all of that. So whether those are friends and family, a therapist, any other professional that might be able to help you get through and move through that situation, don't be afraid to ask for help. But then when we talk about making the decisions of those things that I just mentioned, parenting, the finances, child support, spousal support, what are the options for making those decisions? There basically are two options. You can go to court or you can go for mediation. So what happens in court? Essentially, you're going to end up hiring a lawyer. There are some people that will go to court without a lawyer, but it's much more advisable to at least speak to a lawyer to understand what the family law rules are. Don't go into court not knowing, because it could be really, really disastrous if you don't have the proper information. But so if you end up going to court, that's naturally an adversarial process. Somebody wins and somebody loses. And oftentimes what people do, because they're battling over how many days they get with the kids, they start attacking each other. They start preparing these documents that are talking about why the other person is a really bad parent, all of this negativity. Sometimes it can be really exaggerated what is said in those documents, and everything starts escalating and getting more and more heated. And now you two have to deal with each other. When you're dealing with the kids, you're going to be dealing with each other for years to come, and you've created such a negative environment that dealing with each other is horrible. And it's so difficult to make decisions with each other that have to be made because you started this court battle, and it's so negative. And the other thing is, most of the people, when they get a judgment, are unhappy with the end result of what happened in court. And frankly, 90% or more of people that go to court, they actually end up resolving outside of court before or during the trial because they're afraid of what the outcome might be in the trial. So think about that. You've spent all of this time, all of this anxiety and stress, and perhaps a ton of money on legal fees to either resolve outside of court or get a decision on your divorce matters that you're not happy with. Does that make sense? Probably not. In most situations, court battles are so negative. There's always going to be somebody who loses. Now think through what that means in terms of when you're dealing with each other with the kids. Maybe one parent is so angry at the other that they're starting to say negative things to the children about that parent. I mean, it's not right, but that's the reality of what happens when you're going through court. You're so angry with each other, and it translates into all of your dealings. Now something that could have been a very simple conversation about some everyday life matter becomes this huge issue that everyone's digging their heels in the sand because nobody wants to agree with the other because you're just mad. You're just mad. Did you really have to go that route? Now let's talk about mediation. What is it? The two of you basically sit down with a mediator who acts as a facilitator. A divorce mediator that's accredited is trained in family law. So they know about all of the discussions you need to have, and they will guide you through those discussions, but in a positive, constructive way. What they're doing is they're walking you through, if you're talking about the parenting plan, here are some ideas of what the parenting plan could look like. Here's what other people do. You guys get to decide what the ultimate resolution is for that parenting plan. There's no judge in the room. There's nobody else forcing a decision upon you. It's up to you two to decide what makes sense for your family. And that's really a fantastic way to go because everybody has a unique family situation. What works for one family may not work for the other family. And here you are in this positive, calm setting. It's not a battle of he said, she said. It's not pointing fingers. It's not this rigid courtroom where you're anxious and stressed and saying negative things about each other. It's the opposite. You're sitting in a room with this mediator who is helping you have a calm discussion. Each of you have your voices heard. You get to talk about your opinions. You get to talk about why you think a certain way of resolving makes sense. And ultimately, the two of you will come up with what the resolution should be for your family with the guidance of the mediator. If the discussion becomes heated, the mediator will probably pull each of you aside, calm you down, coach you through what the next steps should be, and then bring you back together once everybody has had a minute to just breathe. And then the same thing applies when you're talking about the finances. So whether you're talking about the house or calculating child support or spousal support values, talking about what happens with the debt, what happens with the other assets. Again, it's a positive, constructive conversation. You're not battling it out, but you're actually having an intelligent discussion about what should happen. The mediator is there to guide you through those discussions, having been trained in family law and knowing what you need to get through. And ultimately, the mediator will write up a report at the end of the mediation that identifies what your agreement is. So then you can get that agreement turned into a formal court document. So it is an official document that the two of you need to follow. But what is the difference here? The difference between mediation and that ugly court battle is you two got to decide what the resolution will be for all of those divorce issues. You guys got to do that with positive, constructive conversation. You weren't battling with each other. Can you imagine how that translates to your dealings with your kids? You're not now crazy angry at this other person. You get to focus on just being with your children, just moving on positively in your life instead of a court battle that could drag on for years. I cannot tell you how many people I have come across that have spent years in court, getting nowhere, draining their financial resources, being totally anxious and full of stress and not being able to focus on being in the moment with their kids. You're divorcing this person for a reason. You wanted to move on with your life in a different way, but that court battle keeps you stuck. You're stuck with that person because you can't get out of it. With mediation, it's the opposite. You can move forward positively. You get this resolution way more quickly than what you would do in a court battle. You have spent not even a fraction of what you would be spending on legal fees because you guys are coming together for a common purpose with a mediator whose incentive is to get you guys to resolve affordably, quickly, with less stress, and with a focus of only positive outcomes that the two of you can live with moving forward. Mediation is always a better route, even if you can only agree on maybe of four issues. Can you imagine if you get those 3 issues out of the way, you still only have 1 issue left that you may have to go to court for? It's way cheaper, it's way faster, and you'll be much happier with the results. So how do you find a mediator? You can go online, you can go to the Ontario Association for Family Mediation, you can Google mediators. The 2 of you get to decide who you find is somebody that you click with. Who is a mediator that gets you and what you're about and what's important to you? Who's a mediator that you like the way that they deal with you and they hear you and they're willing to go along with the uniqueness of your family and help you find the resolution that works for you. Mediation, it's always a better route. Have a great day, and we'll talk to you soon.